Thou deaf and dumb devil, why dost thou frighten these children? Come to me. Come to my study. I am a man.
Those were the words shouted into the night by Reverend Samuel Wesley, the father of John Wesley. And Samuel wasn't speaking to his wife. He wasn't scolding his children. He was challenging a ghost named Jeffrey, an unseen presence that had haunted his home for weeks. And old Jeffrey answered. The next evening, the spirit slammed the door of Samuel's study so hard it nearly knocked him down. Another night, Samuel claimed he felt pressure on his chest, as if something unseen were trying to smother him. Was this simply a case of hysteria? A practical joke gone too far? Or proof of a spiritual realm? That's what we're talking about on this edition of the Parsonage Files.
Welcome to the Parsonage Files. My name is Rick Birk, and I am the pastor at Groveport United Methodist Church. And with me today is my brother, Rob. Hey, Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Well, glad to have you here. And today we are going to talk about one of the best-known stories from Methodist history, and that is the ghost that haunted John Wesley's childhood.
I have a confession to make.
Yes.
I get John and Charles Wesley confused all the time.
You are not the only one. So John Wesley is considered the founder of the Methodist movement. He was an Anglican priest, and his younger brother, Charles, was also an Anglican priest, was also involved in the Methodist movement, which is why people sometimes get him confused. But Charles is mostly known as a poet and a hymn writer. So let's go back to December of 1716.
I have a good story for you guys. It involves the founder of Methodism, John Wesley, and a strange story from his childhood. It was December 1716, in the small village of Epworth, England. The Wesleys lived in the rectory, an old house that served as the home of the local minister. Reverend Samuel Wesley and his wife Susanna had a very large family, 19 children, though only 9 survived past infancy. Among them were the daughters Amelia, Susanna, known as Suki, Mary, or Molly, Mehetabel, called Hetty, Anne, Nancy, Martha, Patty, and Keziah. Their 12th child, John, was only 13, away at boarding school in London along with his 2 brothers. For now, John was just a curious preteen reading about the strange events in letters from home, events that would one day convince him of the unseen world. And so begins one of the most famous hauntings in British history.
Week 1.
It started small. Groans at the dining room door. Knocks echoing in empty halls. One of the children, Emily, thought she saw a figure drifting down the stairs in a long nightgown. Hetty swore she heard footsteps circling the attic stairs. Footsteps so heavy the whole house shook. The Wesley children began to call the spirit in their house Jeffrey. Even the servants were not spared from Jeffrey's antics. Robert Brown, one of the household staff, said the latch of his door rattled by itself. He heard footsteps like a man in heavy boots pacing the attic. Sometimes it sounded like someone stumbling over shoes that weren't even there. One night he heard a strange gobbling noise, like a turkey, right next to his bed. And then there was the corn mill, a device used to turn corn into meal. Brown said he saw its handle spin furiously, though no one touched it, and the hopper was empty. He later joked that if it had been full, Jeffrey might have gotten all of his grinding done, but his laughter carried a nervous edge. Even the family mastiff, a massive guard dog, cowered and howled whenever Jeffrey was near.
Week 2.
The knocks and groans of week 1 had unsettled the family. By the second week, the disturbances grew bolder, spreading from room to room. Emily reported hearing a crash in the kitchen, like a great stone thrown down, though nothing was out of place. She also swore she heard bottles shatter under the stairs, yet when the family searched, none were broken. Hetty described footsteps following her down the stairs, the house shaking with each step. Mrs. Wesley at first dismissed it all as just rats. She even ordered a horn blown through the house, thinking the noise might drive the rodents out. But if anything, the disturbances only became louder. Doors rattled, latches lifted. Even the warming pan by the fireplace shook, as though invisible hands had hold of it. The family could no longer ignore what was happening in their home, nor could they keep the haunting from the most skeptical member of the household, Samuel.
Week 3.
By the third week, the haunting had grown too relentless to hide from Samuel Wesley. Until then, the family hadn't told him, assuming he wouldn't have believed them, and they were right. When he finally heard the stories, Samuel accused his daughters of playing pranks, even sneaking boys into the house. Emily was furious at the suggestion. She declared she would rather the haunting grow worse than have her honor questioned, and grow worse it did. Now the phenomena came both day and night. Knocks sounded in groups of 3. Groans shook the nursery. Sometimes it sounded like chains were being dragged through the halls. The family dog just cowered in the corner in silence. Samuel himself began to hear the noises. At first he searched every room in the house, convinced someone was hiding, but each time he found nothing. Samuel was forced to admit to himself that he had been wrong about his daughters. They weren't making up stories. The haunting was real.
Week 4.
By the 4th week, everyone living in the Wesley house knew it was haunted. Old Jeffrey was no prank, no animal, no trick of the imagination, and Samuel decided it was time to face the spirit himself. One night, after being awakened by 9 loud knocks, Samuel rose from his bed and stormed into the dark. He called out,
"Thou deaf and dumb devil! Why dost thou frighten these children? Come to me. Come to my study. I am a man."
Old Jeffrey answered Samuel's challenge. Furniture rattled. Violent knocks shook the walls. The next evening, the study door slammed in Samuel's face so hard it nearly threw him backward. Another night, he claimed he felt a crushing weight on his chest. The rector of Epworth knew that something otherworldly haunted his home, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. And then it stopped. By late January 1717, the noises ceased as suddenly as they had begun. No explanation was ever found. Some thought it was the spirit of a dead servant. Others feared it was an omen of Samuel's death. Susanna believed spirits of the deceased could sometimes cross into the world of the living. John, away at school, never forgot the letters he received during those weeks. Years later, he collected the family's testimonies. For him, old Jeffrey was not just a ghost story. It was proof of the unseen world, a sign that the spiritual realm was real. The Epworth Rectory still stands today. Visitors say they feel cold spots and see flickering lights. Paranormal researchers still call it one of the most famous poltergeist cases in British history. So, was old Jeffrey a trick? A restless spirit? Or something darker still? We may never know. But for the Wesley family, the haunting left a mark that shaped their faith and prepared John to carry a message of God's power to the world.
So, Rob, what thoughts do you have about old Jeffrey?
Well, first off, where did they come up with the name? Do we know?
We don't really know. They just started to call it that. I don't know if maybe giving a name to something makes it a little less frightening, perhaps. But that's a really good question. I have no idea where the name Old Jeffrey comes from.
And the family just sort of rolled with this, right? They didn't like debunk it and say this.
Well, they tried to debunk it at first. First, Mom, Susanna, thought it was just rats. But then,
as you do,
and that's pretty big rats.
that right?
Yeah.
Even for London, no, not London. Never mind.
I didn't include it in this particular narration, but reading through some of the reports from the daughters, one of them reported seeing what they thought was a little furry animal that they thought was a manifestation of old Jeffrey, which is interesting because if you go to the 20th century,
I see where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
yes, the talking mongoose,
Jeff,
the
the talking mongoose, or more commonly known as the Dalby Spook.
Yeah. And so I thought that was kind of interesting how both of these two stories, which are both sort of poltergeist type stories,
Absolutely.
but there is also a bit of a connection there with some sort of furry creature because in Jeff the talking mongoose, they also saw a furry creature.
Furry creature that resembled a mongoose.
Resembled a mongoose, yeah. But the family at first tried to ignore what was going on. And like any good horror movie, it's the kids who first discover the haunting.
Right.
Then it goes to the mom. And then finally the dad, only after being hit over the head with the activity, then begins to believe.
It's always the dad, right? He's always like, I don't believe this.
believe it. Yeah.
Blood shooting out of the walls. And like, I still don't believe it.
Until dad comes face to face with the
Right.
ghost. And then it's, we got to do something to get rid of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nana becomes a problem when dad gets bothered.
In this
Yeah.
case, it just stopped. And no one knew why it started. No one knows why it ended. It just did. And John Wesley wasn't there, but he did receive letters from his family and was interested his entire life about ghosts and about this phenomenon that had occurred to his family. And what it led him to was a understanding that the world we live in is much broader than what we can see with our own eyes and what we can experience with our own senses. So as a United Methodist clergy person, if somebody were to ask me about ghosts, what I would say is, I don't know. I've never seen a ghost, but I think we live in a world of spiritual beings. Obviously, we read the Bible, and the Bible depicts a world where there are all kinds of spiritual beings. So could there be something out there? Sure.
Have you ever been called to investigate?
I did one time.
Oh, dude, really?
It was during the pandemic, actually. And I got called out to a house. It wasn't a church member or anything like that. It was someone down the street from the church. And
And they're like, we have an issue. We need Pastor Rick.
yes, the woman's husband had passed away and she had a new love interest. And she was convinced that the ghost of her deceased husband was not happy about her new love interest and was haunting her.
No. I've seen ghosts. I know what happens. I know.
Right. So it sounds like a movie.
Right.
And went down and I didn't see anything.
Did you hear anything? Was it
The weirdest thing is I blessed a dryer.
okay? Was it a haunted dryer? Is that what he?
So
the door opening and shutting. Boom, 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 boom.
So every time the boyfriend was upstairs in the bathroom, he could hear the dryer open and shut. And
As if it was mocking him.
well, so the husband used to get up in the mornings and do his laundry or something along those lines.
Ace.
And so the woman in this case, assumed that the dryer opening and shutting was her deceased husband. I don't know. I just prayed that whatever was happening would stop, and they never called back, so I assume it did.
So you really don't know what happened?
No, I have no idea. But that's the extent of my ghost hunting experience as a pastor.
So for over 20 years, one time.
Right. You know what? Somehow when I became a pastor, I thought there would be a lot more going after ghosts. And
so you file it under the like quicksand, right? Things you thought were going to be a bigger issue in your life that never were.
I thought ghosts would be a much bigger deal of being a pastor, but instead, who knew it was paperwork? Yeah.
We all have right. Who knew that would be the worst part of paperwork?
Yeah. Year-end reports. Woohoo!
But they're important.
I guess so. But I have never ever seen anything. I did
no pea soup, nothing like that.
No. Although I did have, come to think about it, I did have many years ago. I went over to a church I was serving to lock it up. It was like on a Friday night, about 10 o'clock.
Right.
And there were these sweet older ladies who would gather on Friday nights there at the church and play cards. And I used to always joke that the local police were going to come and raid them for their outlaw euchre party or whatever it was they were doing. Yeah.
It's a little rowdy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They
a little too much coffee. And,
yeah. And that they were very sweet. And so I went over to lock it up. And as I went down the basement where they were, the one woman goes, "Oh, you scared me. I thought you were the old man." And I go, "What old guy?" I'm thinking somebody wander in on it, right? Yeah. And they go, "Oh, well, about an hour ago, we saw an older gentleman walk down the steps. And when you got to the bottom of the steps, there was a wall right in front of you. You had to turn left to go into the fellowship hall."
Okay.
And they said that this older gentleman walked down the steps, looked at him, and then just walked straight right through that brick wall.
And they were like, okay with this? Just kept playing their...
Well, it didn't stop them from playing cards. And so they told me that, and I go, huh. And then they go, okay, we'll see you Sunday. And then they all just pick up their stuff and leave.
And now you're stuck there by yourself.
I'm stuck here after hearing this ghost story, having to lock up this church by myself at night.
Yeah. But you didn't see anything, right?
No, I didn't see anything. No, But those are the only ghost stories I've ever had. Have you ever had a ghost story, Rob?
I wouldn't say I have, but I've never seen a ghost. Never. One time I thought I was being haunted by a witch in the car, but it turned out it was just on the radio at Halloween time. It had this cackling behind the radio, the songs, and I thought it was a witch, and as you do, you're like, oh wow, and so
and then when it happened again, you figured it was the radio, and
then I turned down the radio and it stopped happening. I'm like, well, put two and two together, and then realized it was on the radio and it was Halloween night.
And is this the first time you've admitted that in front of a group of people?
It was, and I wasn't young. I mean, I was old enough to realize that was silly, but yeah, so hanging head in shame.
Yeah, so that is the story of Old Jeffrey. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are looking for a church, I would invite you to check out Groveport United Methodist. You can join us each Sunday at 10:30 a.m. online or in person. Remember, God loves you just the way you are. Take care. We'll see you real soon.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to The Parsonage Files. Join us again as we explore the fun side of faith.